start practicing saying that.
I know.
Your pun kills both of us every single time. Hello, we're your sensational hosts, Drucilla and Kelsey.
Hello.
Welcome to Moon Moment. We're very glad you're here. This is the podcast where we discuss the Sailor Moon canon for what we affectionately call, you know by now, it's a Moon Moment.
Moments that we feel exemplify what Sailor Moon stands for and represents. But not to sound mooness, haha. But before we start discussing the episodes this week, we need to clarify something.
Yes. Breaking news. I was wrong. For several podcast episodes, I have said that we will have 12 episodes for our first season. Sadly, all of my old math teachers are weeping because I cannot count.
And I am not a math Asian.
We will only have 11 episodes, not 12, so...
But hopefully there's a season 2, maybe?
Maybe.
Hopefully.
Season 2 will be interesting. I hope we do end up doing that, because there are definitely moments... It'll be interesting to how the moon moments compare in season 2 to season 1. Because I think a lot of our moon moments in season 1, a lot of them are tied to, you know, the Senshi awakening, or to characters who we end up not really seeing a lot of after the first season.
Support us, please. Yeah. Let us have a season 2. So, I guess without further ado, let's jump in, because here we are discussing episodes 20 to 24, and boy howdy, have we got a lot to unpack here. So in these episodes, we follow the girls to a sailor training camp, which we all know is just Luna lying to herself to try and regain any semblance of control she has over Usagi and the girls. So, let's call it what it really is. Beach episode! Here we meet the adorably creepy cast of the Addams house, and the powerful little girl with awesome ghostly psychic powers, and of course her hell-bent on revenge helicopter parent. Relatable. But the girls save the day, and we get some cute father-daughter bonding moments. Next, we're on the animation set of the highly anticipated Sailor V movie, and two animators who... Okay, I'm just going to say it. They are clearly in love with each other. The I was afraid you would leave me behind is 100% code for you have bewitched me, body and soul, Mr. Darcy fans out there. Nephrite tries to hijack one of the animator's special drawing pencils, but of course the scouts are there, with some fangirling courtesy of Usagi and Rei, to save the day. Then we're meeting Princess Diamond, about to present a super secret treasure, who everyone and their mother is convinced might be the mysterious Moon Princess. We see Mamoru plagued with dreams of a totally not obvious, super mysterious girl with long pigtails and 2 buns on her head needing help. Couldn't be anyone we know, obviously, of course. But the Diamond Princess isn't the gal we're looking for. But, fans, we do get a first kiss? What? And now Naru has completely fallen head over heels over Mr. Sanjowin, aka Nephrite. Talk about falling for the bad boy. Nephrite is convinced Naru has something to do with the Sailor Crystal and Sailor Moon. And Naru is convinced Mr. Sanjowin is the dreamiest man alive. And what? He actually reciprocates those feelings? What? Talk about the bad boy falling in love with the good girl fanfic trope that I am 100% here for. But just as they were setting up a cute chocolate parfait date, Zoisite, you jealous jelly bean, a thorn at his side? Why must you tear the lovers apart? Let my fanfic dreams live! Nephrite just had to go and die. Like, damn shorty, you good? No? Bro, R.I.P. Pour one out for the homies. We all crying up in this. Talk about heartbreak. Naru, babe, if you're listening, if you need a shoulder to cry on, your girl's here for you. And with that, let's dive into our moon moments. Drucilla, did you have any moments that you would like to say?
I mean, I got a lot to say about that intro, but in terms of moon moments themselves, I actually didn't have any this batch of episodes, though I did have a couple of potential mini moon moments. But it was also really hard because a lot of these I wasn't sure would be an actual mini moment, or if it's just a decent human being kind of thing, or if it's something like if you listen to our previous podcast, my moment about the teacher changing her look, we ultimately decided that wasn't really a moon moment. It was more of a things you should remember. And so also I think some of my moments could be, just things to keep in mind as human beings. So I'm excited to see what you think about them. I guess because of the the Naru Nephrite little mini arc, I guess it makes sense to start at the beginning, the beach episode.
Yes.
So, which was not originally translated into English, and and I think it's because it is completely different from almost every other episode of Sailor Moon, because it doesn't involve typically the monster of the week. It doesn't have anything to do with the Dark Kingdom. The girls don't save the day. I think it's one that it could easily be cut, because it doesn't really have anything to do with it, and so they just cut it. There's nothing offensive in it that would necessitate it being cut, but
it definitely didn't fit in with the rest of the arc.
Yes,
especially the episodes that we were watching. So I can see why it would be cut.
Also, it's very interesting because as a lover of anime, there are two things that animes always have. Maybe one or the other, maybe both sometimes, but it's a beach episode and it's an onsen episode. And
yes,
I feel like I do remember Sailor Moon having an onsen episode, I think. But the fact that Sailor Moon has a beach episode just kind of warms my heart. That's the tradition continues.
Yes!
So yeah, this episode is completely different. I do have a potential mini moment for this episode, and that is the girls have been told that they have a private beach, and they're on the beach for the first time. They're like, well, it is private. There's no one here. It's just us. And Usagi, complaining and crying, but then immediately turns on a dime and says, but I'm going to have fun anyway. So this is my potential mini moon moment, because I think it's very important that people should make the best of a bad situation. And in this instance, their situation is not that bad. They are still on vacation. They are still on a beautiful beach by the ocean. They're staying at a really cheap pension. They're doing okay. And this is not the first time I think Usagi has shown this 180 mentality. In Mars's introductory episode, she's also crying on the ground, and then she's like, I really don't like this, but then immediately pops up and is like, okay, let me transform. So it's definitely not out of character for her. But I think in terms of making the best of a bad situation, obviously there is a line which, if the situation is, so bad, don't try to make the best of it. You just need to get out to save your sanity.
Yeah.
But if you go on a camping trip and it turns out to not be exactly what you want, try to make the best of it. I think that is an important thing that people should keep in mind. Complaining, I think complaining is healthy to a certain extent, ranting, but obviously there is a point where it's just shut up and deal with your situation. Try to make it better, or just write it out. Which I feel like is similar to a previous moon moment, or maybe a mini moon moment that we had. A lot of what I'm saying is sounding very familiar.
I think this was in the episode when we were talking about Ray as well. It definitely sounds like when she was trying to get on the bus and Luna was trying to be like, okay, let's go, and she was just like, one more good cry before I get on, and that was kind of the whole making the best out of a situation that you're dealt with.
So that was my potential mini moment for this episode.
Yeah, I would definitely not a moon moment.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I would call it a mini moon moment. It's notable, but it's also, they're on a beach and they're doing pretty well for themselves, even if it's quote unquote cheap. But you do bring up a good point of making the best out of a situation that you didn't think you would have. So, commendable moment?
I also want to point out that Rei calls Usagi simple-minded in that moment, and I think that's really unfair of Rei. I mean, I think a lot of what Rei says is Usagi deserves it because she does cry a lot, yeah. But there's sometimes, right, like, she says simple-minded in this instance, and I think, no, that's not really a simple-minded, like, it's, yes, she can be very, I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes trying to think of the word, not contrary, but she's very quick to change her mind. Fickle. So, yeah, I think, Rei is not wrong in things that she says to Usagi most of the time, because Usagi can be fickle, but also, in this instance, I think she was wrong. I think Usagi's just making the best of a bad situation. And I will say some of what Rei says. I think this was also in episode 23. Seilin's like, oh my gosh, I almost got hit with that blast. And you hear voices from off screen, and it's the scouts, and Rei is saying, like, oh, pathetic. It's just like, Rei, oh my god, I love you. And she says other stuff like that in, like, other episodes. She's like, ah, you idiot. Rei is very harsh to Usagi, and I think a good chunk of it is deserved. But in this instance, I think she is wrong.
Yeah, the only other notable thing that I wanted to mention was when Sakiko was feeling really lonely and was like, oh, I don't really have any friends. Ami was trying to comfort her. Mm-hmm. And that's not my mini moment. It would be that she was saying, oh, Usagi was actually that friend that helped me pull out of that loneliness. Mm-hmm. And to me, like, Ami, she didn't have to say that, but it's heartwarming to see how much Ami values Usagi's friendship and that initial reach out to her. And it's, to me, whenever someone says anything good about me, not to my face, or if it's just off the cuff, it's just, oh, you were thinking of me. That's so sweet. I always forget that there are people out in the world that when you go about your daily lives, people are like, oh, this reminds me of this person. And I think for Ami to be thinking of Usagi like that, just, oh, this person is really great, and she is someone that I value highly enough where I am praising her without her being here. And I thought that was very cute, very heartwarming.
I think it also plays into, weirdly enough, Ami's introduction in Crystal, because they make it very obvious that Ami is lonely and that she's by herself, and that she wishes she could be with groups of people and laughing and having fun. And she values Usagi very greatly. And in the Masquerade episode, they're all meeting at the arcade, and Ami is showing Rei the Sailor V video game, and Rei says, oh, well, I've never gone to an arcade before. And Ami said, yeah, the first time I came was with Usagi. She brought me and we played games together. And it's like, it's a great moment. I think it shows just, like, the ripple effects of making friends, because, she made friends with Ami, and then they did this fun thing together, and it became a very fond memory for Ami, and now she's here introducing Rei to it. And I think that's interesting, that the moment that you're pulling from the original, I feel, has a lot of why can I not think of words today? It has a lot of resonance with Crystal, weirdly. Also, just want to point out, everyone at this pension knows who the Sailor Scouts are.
Like, yeah, I think there are definitely honorable mentions in this episode, but not really any moon moments.
The animation episode, which was definitely everyone having fun and throwing shade at their bosses in the industry.
Yes. 100%. I was like, oh, this is so relatable content, right?
Yeah, and talk about relatable content. The title of this episode is Protect the Children's Dreams, like friendship through anime. And I'm like, oh, that's me and Gilsey. We have friendship through anime. Yeah.
Oh, wait. They were saying anime, like, I also watched the English one, and they were saying anime.
I did not actually watch the Viz dub for any of these because I just didn't have time. I do want to watch the Viz dubs for these. I'll have to make sure I pay attention to how they pronounce anime.
They were saying it different. I wasn't used to it, and every time they said it would be a jarring thing.
Talking about pronunciation stuff, so I have had a very hard time saying Nephrite's name correctly. And I didn't know why, that I kept trying to call him Nephrite. And I realized it's because the Tik dub calls him Nephrite with an L. And I don't know if we're going to keep this in or not, because this is opening a whole can of worms. But I don't know this for sure. I think they call him Nephrite in the Tik dub because in the Japanese, even though they're saying Nephrite, it sounds like they're saying Nephrite just because of the accent.
Yeah.
And so I think the reason that they call him Nephrite is because of, like, racism. Well, it's just, like, it's sort of like the stereotype of Asians can't say L.
Yeah.
Or they can't say R.
Yeah,
right?
R.
And so I realized that, and I'm like, oh my god, my world has now been rocked, because Jadeite, it's pronounced differently, but it's basically
or like
Jadeite.
Jadeite.
Yeah, in the Japanese, they emphasize the jade part of it, but I think in the Deke, they say...
in
the Deke, they say
on
Jadeite.
Here I keep interchanging it, which I've realized.
Mm-hmm. And then they completely changed Kunzite's name to Malachite. I don't know why. Maybe because Malachite was easier to say. I don't know. We can cut this whole section because I don't even know how to dive into this. I mean, this episode was not prepared to dive into this whole potential thing, which is Feast of Fiction. Talk about being random. Feast of Fiction, which is a great show on YouTube. I'll put a link in the show notes. They did an episode where they looked at like scenes in movies. And one of the scenes they talked about was at the end of A Christmas Story. And it's so fascinating because they talk about how it is incredibly racist, that scene. Because Asian people can say R's and say L's.
Yes, I can attest to that. Hello, fellow Asians.
Yes. So I don't know if it was just no one bothered to actually double check it and figure out what Nephrite's actual name was, what it was based on, or did they think that for the English actors saying Nephrite was a lot easier than saying Nephrite? Because to me it doesn't seem easier. But then they also changed Kunzite's name completely. I don't know if anyone knows the decision process behind this. Of course, I would love to know. Am I just making something out of nothing? But
that's interesting.
Anyway,
I hadn't thought of that, but wow, yes, a can of worms.
Yeah. Let's go back to non-racist things. Anime.
Yes.
Friendship. Lesbians.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes. Let's just say that I am in love with... I have a crush on Hiromi. Hi. Hey. If you are not interested in Kazuko, I am here. Let me give you my number. But this is also the episode where if you've gone on our website, which our website is moonmomentpod.com.
Moonmomentpodcast.com.
You will see that in our About pictures, I am wearing Ray's iconic overall outfit as a cosplay, and this is the episode where Ray wears that outfit.
Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Gilsey's cosplay. This is Gilsey's cosplay episode. And I just sent you something in chat.
Oh my gosh.
So cute! For the audio listeners, I will put this in the show notes so you guys can see. I came across this image on Tumblr of Ray in her classic pink overalls holding her fish bag.
Oh my god.
But there have been some subtle changes to it. I will put it up there so you can see.
Should this be my new cosplay? I still have those overalls.
You should if you cosplay as this, we will find something for me to cosplay. I will cosplay as well.
I love this. Oh my god.
I didn't have any moon moments for this episode.
Neither did I.
I actually have in my notes, this episode just not that great.
Yeah.
That final fight between the two Yoma is so annoying because it's like, we're best friends, and through the power of friendship, we'll kick your butt. And then they just start having this argument about finishing off the scouts, and like, well, we're not friends anymore. But yeah.
No moon moments for me.
So much animator shade being thrown. Like, I could just see it, especially rolling off the director of like, so you're saying she needs to be sexier? He's like, no, I would never say that.
That part had me crying.
I will also say at this point, I feel like Nephrite is he's either losing patience or he's getting lazier about when he gets close to his targets. And this, it's just, he just randomly walks in and he's like, oh, I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. I just wanted to see where you would work. It's so random. Like, she's like probably a newbie animator at the studio. No one really knows her. But
she's so new. Like, it was implied that they had just started this job, that they had just finished school. Mm-hmm. I was looking at it and thinking, either you are a creepy stalker, or I don't even know, you could just be a creepy stalker. And if that were me in her shoes, I'd be like, security.
Yeah. On the other hand, when Nephrite exits the building, he says, now I just have to get the scouts to come here. So it's possible he didn't really care about being subtle. He was just like, you know what, I'm going to give her the barest minimum of excuse, infect her pencil, and then leave, and I've got to figure out a way to get the scouts. So,
I mean, he did get Ami there. Yes. So.
For me, that's all from this episode.
So, the Princess Diamond episode.
Which is I guess you could consider it an actual plot episode, because it appears in the manga, and, Crystal gets an episode of it. And I also had no moon moments.
I didn't have any moon moments.
I didn't even have a moon moment.
Yeah, neither did I.
I will say, Beryl, like, the line after Nephrite leaves and Zoazite says something like, why are you giving him more chances? Beryl says something like, because he knows he's in a tough spot and people get desperate when they're in tight spots. I'm like, oh, Beryl. Because she doesn't really do anything, it's really easy to not think of Beryl as a threat. Like, she's just sitting in her chair, massaging her crystal ball, and giving orders. And there have been times when Nephrite ends up just dissing her, not answering her space calls or whatever. And I think it's easy to forget that she's very powerful, and she's really good at getting what she wants and, like, manipulating people to get it. I wish we could see more of what she was like before she became, Queen Beryl.
Oh, I would love that.
That was a great early moment for Beryl, and I liked it. But yeah, the rest of this episode, I mean, you've got
a lot of background of Mamoru, why he is Tuxedo Mask, and it's the first instance where it really delves into it, I guess, because we have him, like, waking up from that dream of the princess.
Yeah.
And then we have Ami being like, so are you on our side? And Mamoru is like, well, if we're both looking for the same thing, maybe we're not. Maybe I'm your enemy.
And if we think about, because we talked about in our previous episode, because it kind of seems like Mamoru doesn't remember that he's Tuxedo Common. So is it sort of like this other personality is taking over? I wonder if that personality is actually Endymion. And that's why he feels this need to protect Sailor Moon, because he has this, like, instinct that Sailor Moon is the Moon Princess. And that would make sense, because the dreams he's having are maybe, like, bleed through from Endymion's past life. And so he can't quite see who this girl is. But from his past life, he would know what the silver crystal is. And he would know that it is important. And it's powerful. Yeah. And so Mamoru is trying to work through that of, like, maybe I can get my mind sorted if I have this thing. Even though, that doesn't really make sense. This is all I have to go on. Although, it's interesting that even this far into the anime, this is technically chapter 4 of the manga. And we're 22 episodes in, and they're just starting to hint at this whole, it feels like we've danced like with this before.
Yeah.
Or it feels like I've kissed you before, which let's talk about that later.
Yeah, that part.
But they're already hinting at the prince and princess thing, and this is when they start seeding it in the anime. So before we move on to the whole kiss aspect, do you want to talk about anything else in this episode?
No. I just have in my notes, I literally have like 4 bullet points. Mm-hmm. One of them is in all caps, the first kiss, which excited for, like, my fangirl heart is like coming out of my chest. But at the same time, Usagi is drinking a juice that we all know is alcoholic. She's passed out. Mamoru, what are you doing? What are you doing? No!
Overall, it's a shame because this episode is very forgettable because there's not much to it. And of course, we haven't even mentioned that Nephrite uses a Yoma basically to possess Naru in order to possess the princess so he can steal the diamond. And this episode, yeah, it's a shame it's sort of forgettable because it also has an iconic moment that is ported directly from the manga. Because the scene where they fall from the balcony and Usagi's got the umbrella and Tuxedo Common is like holding on to her. Like, that is a full page.
Yeah.
I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It is iconic, and they put it in the anime because it's iconic, and it's, again, also in Crystal, like, they didn't leave it out. But it's also in an episode where a dude takes advantage of a drunk 14-year-old.
Yeah.
And Crystal fixes it a tiny bit because Usagi does not get drunk. She's just tired, and so she falls asleep on the bench. He still kisses her. But yeah, I mean, I'm not arguing that this is right at all, but I will say, because we just talked about how Endymion is sort of, I mean, if we assume that Endymion is this other personality that takes over as Tuxedo Common, I mean, I'm not going to say you could argue because this isn't right no matter what you do, but if it's Endymion, because he feels such a strong pull, because he's like hiding outside of the door trying to figure out how to get into this, and he sees Usagi in her quote-unquote princess outfit, and he just feels super drawn to her. And so you could say that it's Endymion drawing on this connection and then kissing her. Again, this does not make it right at all.
This is not consent.
Yes, I am just potentially providing an in-universe explanation. It does not excuse this at all because she is not consenting to this. And it's, I don't know, do they even remember this? She's passed out. Yeah. And if he's doing this as Tuxedo Common, Mamoru wouldn't remember this. I don't know if he remembers, like, once he realizes he is Tuxedo Common, I don't know if those memories come back. So in theory, they just don't remember their first kiss at all.
Yeah, I remember watching this when I was younger, like, freaking out because I was like, oh my god, they finally kissed. But yeah, looking at it now through the lens of being older and just knowing boundaries and consent and just how the development of our world and society. Now I'm just like, man, past Gilsey, like, I totally feel your fangirl energy. Like, I feel that right now, but present Gilsey is just skived out. It. Yeah.
Also, she's basically cosplaying as a princess, so just a reminder, cosplay is not consent.
Yes. Yes. No moments.
Not really a great episode. It is very surprising they kept it for Crystal. They, like I said, they did change her getting drunk. Now she just falls asleep outside, and Ami and Ray just leave her. I guess.
I know. I was like, girl, where are your friends? If my friends abandoned me on the floor of a nightclub, I'd be like, y'all aren't my friends. Y'all aren't true ride or die.
Yeah. They do fix that, but they don't change the kiss aspect. And I wonder how much of that is... I just don't know what the cultural understanding of like consent would be in Japan. Not that they don't have it. Like, I'm not suggesting that, Japan is Wild West of consent and
a wild
underage
frontier.
girls and stuff like that. But if they didn't think that was a problem, so they just left it in. Like, the drinking, obviously, the underage drinking, yeah, we'll remove that. But also, I wonder how much, because from my vague recollections, Takeuchi had a huge creative, like, I don't know how much veto power she had, but she did have significant amount. So I don't know if this is one of those things. It's like, well, we're going to take this out because it's, not appropriate. And she was just like, no, you have to keep their first kiss in. Though they could have changed it is kind of the overarching theme of Crystal. They could have just had them both be awake. They could have just had Usagi being tired. She could have just like been sitting down to catch her breath. Maybe she did fall asleep, and then she wakes up and she sees Tuxedo Common like right there, and then they just kiss, and so they're both awake for it. They could have fixed this so easily, and it wouldn't have been gross.
Or it could have been something more of, I don't know, a forehead kiss, or like a cheek kiss, or like a hand kiss, or something that's a little less invasive. Still invasive, but like less so. But yeah, these next two episodes where Naru is pining for Mr. Sanjoin. So I have a moon moment maybe for the last of these two episodes.
I have a potential mini moon moment for the first one. So should we dive into that first, or?
Oh, actually, my moon moment is in the first episode of these two. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's great. It works out fine.
Okay. What's your moon moment potential?
So my potential mini moon moment is Usagi just basically getting a second opinion, because not only because they're talking about what to do with Naru at the shrine, and Rei says, you need to tell her, and Ami says, maybe we'll just wait and see, which I've seen some stuff online that says that people automatically side with Rei because you should absolutely not wait and see, because they immediately dismiss her thoughts. But I think maybe where Ami is coming from is because at this point they really don't know how much Naru is on Nephrite's radar. So I think maybe where Ami's coming from is, well, let's just wait and see, because he may not even know she exists. So we don't have to break her heart and tell her the truth if he's never going to interact with her. I'm much less on Rei's side, I think, than I would have been back in the day. Because if that's where Ami's coming from, then I can understand it. But Usagi gets these opinions. She doesn't like either of them, because going with Ami means that Naru may actually get physically hurt, but going with Rei means that she may definitely emotionally get hurt. And so she goes to ask Motoki for advice. And then Mamoru tags along, because as we've said in previous episodes, he's got nothing better to do. Because
he's just hot and rich.
I couldn't believe he literally says that after we talked about it in previous episodes. And she gets the same advice from them, but my potential mini moon moment is she's trying to go to as many people as possible to get advice. And it's something that we sort of talked about in the tennis episode, because Naru goes to Usagi for advice because her friend is acting odd. And then they go to kind of like confront her. And obviously Usagi is not as confident and as prepared to talk to Naru as Naru was to talk to her friend in that episode. My potential mini moon moment is Usagi getting advice from multiple sources. And you should do that. Like, that is a good idea.
I will say that is really good of Usagi. But the reason I didn't think it was something notable was because I mainly think she did it so she could get closer to Motoki. Or just have some alone time with him. Because the way she went about it was, she could have asked anyone else. She could have gone to one of her classmates that also knows Naru. Like, what's his name? The kid with the glasses.
Umino? And
Umino.
See, I don't think she would have... In a weird way, like, Usagi seems very friendly and popular, but she doesn't really seem to have any actual, like, close friends. Naru was really it seemed like her only friend. Even though she talked to other girls in class, Naru just seemed to be her friend. And now her friend group is expanding. And I think it wasn't so much she wanted to get close to Motoki. I think it was just, she likes him. And so he's going to pop into her mind more often. But it's also, she doesn't really seem that close to her classmates. At least not close enough to talk to them about a fellow classmate, one that is her friend. But, she's not going to talk to her parents about this, because teenagers don't talk to their parents about things like this. Her brother's too young. She's already gotten advice from her friends, Ami and Rei. And because Motoki is older than her, but not like a parent, she maybe thinks that he will have good advice. Because he has given her, quote unquote, good advice in the past. I think that's where it comes from. So, I mean, that's just my opinion, of course.
Okay. I can see that. I will still say that I think it's Usagi trying to get some alone time with Motoki, and then Mamoru just hijacks that potential little coffee date between the two.
Which I was so proud of Usagi in that moment, because she's like, okay, thanks. Now that this weight has been lifted, I'm so hungry. And she starts ordering all this stuff. And the guys are like, are you paying? It's like, I thought you were paying. But then she says, no, I'm going to treat you guys. And then she starts ordering more food. I'm like, yes, Usagi. Yes. Like, I don't know if this is you maturing. But yes, you're paying.
Yeah, I started cheering. Yeah.
I really wish we could have seen the rest of what that coffee date was like.
Her appetite, girl after my own heart.
Yeah. I was going to say also, I love when she confronts Nephrite and Naru. She's like, you're under arrest for romance scam charges. That was a fantastic line. Romance. And I just, like, some of her speeches are incredible. I love them.
The mini moon moment that I was thinking of was, it's towards the end, and it's after that whole Naru just being completely smitten by Mr. Sanjoin. And there is a moment where there is a shooting star, and Usagi is wishing for Naru's happiness. And throughout this episode, Usagi has kind of been one foot in, one foot out in helping her friend, because she does really care for her friend. She does really care for Naru. She did try to talk to her, but she kind of just like blurted it out and then ran away. She didn't really follow through with anything, and she does seek advice from the two boys and her two friends, but it's never really, I don't know, completely pure-hearted. I don't know if that's like the right word for it.
I see what you're getting at. Her wishing for her friend's happiness is the mini moon momentum.
Yes, because it's without any ties to anything. There's nothing in it for her. Because you can say, like I said before, with the asking Motoki for advice, it's kind of her having some alone time with her crush, or she was kind of being coerced into talking to Naru by Rei and Ami. They're like, oh, maybe we should do something. And then Usagi said, I can take care of it, you guys. Just give me some time. I feel like with every step of the way, Usagi was kind of with good intentions for Naru, but there was something in it for her, in a sense. But this little brief moment of Usagi wishing for Naru's happiness, it was kind of a fleeting, I just really want my friend to be happy. I really don't want to see her hurt, but I don't know what to do.
I don't think this is a mini moon moment. I just think that it's it's becoming shorthand when we say decent human being kind of thing, but I think if you care about someone, yes, Usagi was maybe a little selfish. She was trying to make things easier for her, but this is the one thing that's like, I just want her to be happy. But I don't think this is a mini moon moment, because it's something that everyone wishes for people that they care about. I wish my mom to be happy. I wish my sister to be happy. I would not consider that a mini moon moment, because to beat the dead horse, it's a decent human being thing. to wish that the people that you care for, or even, you know, sometimes it doesn't have to be people that you know personally. Like, if there are millions of girls on this planet that wish for BTS to be happy.
We are not opening that can of worms.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it is unique enough to be deemed a mini moment. You know, maybe if it was a different character, you know, one that we had seen be totally selfish, or like an evil character. Like, if for some reason Zoisite was just like, you know what? I really wish that Sailor Moon could be super happy, you know? Then maybe it would be different. But I don't think that this is a mini moon moment. Sorry.
Okay.
So I guess the last episode 24, the conclusion of this Nephrite Naru
ship.
Actually, you say ship, that brings up something I did want to say. In our previous episode, when I was talking about there are a lot of people in the fandom that ship them and that stand for this relationship, and I said, you know, obviously no. I kind of want to backtrack on that a little bit. Obviously, a relationship between an adult man and a teenage girl is inappropriate. But I don't think that's actually what this is. So, analyzing especially what Nephrite says to Naru, I think it really comes from... So, in the episode 23, is it 23? No, it's episode 24. He says to her, I'm from an evil organization that, you know, we backstab and climb all over one another to just get more power and to get a leg up, and, you know, no one cares about anyone else. He's saying this to manipulate her, but I also think it's true.
Yeah.
And as we've seen, like, Zoisite does not like, you know, I mean, Zoisite kills Nephrite, pretty much. She, excuse me, the deep dub is bleeding in. Zoisite engineers Nephrite's death, and will be incredibly murder happy, actually, thinking back to... So I completely believe what Nephrite is saying, but I think he ends up making this connection with Molly because he doesn't understand why this girl is so attached to him, and she shows him kindness and compassion, and the fact that she just keeps coming back to him no matter what. I think it starts wheels turning in his head, and I think it may also have something to do with the fact that he is more assimilated into the human world than anyone else, because he has a persona and people, you know him, sort of, and he has a mysterious mansion and a car that he drives around really fast. And he actually gets up close and personal with his victims. Like, he chooses them and then goes to their workplace and say they're a big fan. And I think that also influences it. He suspects that Naru has something to do with either Sailor Moon or the crystal, because it keeps reacting to her. You know, he just doesn't know what is going on. I just think this all sort of combines, and he goes to save her not because he's in love with her, but because this is obviously a Zoisite plan, and he's not going to let Zoisite get one up on him. But when he does save her, he does ask these questions of, and I mean, he saved her in episode 23 from Zoisite. And so I think it's more, he just doesn't understand this girl. And I think by the time he dies, R.I.P. Nephrite, I don't think it's love. I think, I don't know, maybe in the future it could have became love. But thankfully we don't have to get into that because it doesn't happen. I think he's starting to feel human emotions again. Because if we go by what the manga says, even though it's not in this anime, they used to be human. They were Endymion's 4 generals. And so I think this is sort of awakening those old human emotions. And I think on Molly's side...
Naru.
Yes, Naru. I also don't think it's love there. I think she's a 14-year-old girl, and she's infatuated with Masato Sanjuin, not Nephrite. And so this man who is handsome and has amazing hair and is I think the first episode he's introduced in, he's described as, he's a business owner, but he's also like a philanthropist. I think she's infatuated with that. And he does end up sort of encouraging that because he believes that Naru is Sailor Moon, or because she may have some sort of tie to the silver crystal. So I just wanted to clarify my stance on that. And
that's why I was waffling between making this a shout out of saying, oh, Nephrite went in and actually stopped being evil, quote unquote, to save Naru. And I thought to myself, is that something that is notable? Is that a moon moment? But then I was thinking, I don't think this is love purely, because Naru is so young. She's 14. I was also thinking the word infatuated came to mind as I was watching it. She barely knows this guy. The few interactions that she has had with him has been Mr. Sanjuin,
yes.
Which is why I keep referring to him as that, because that's what Naru knows him as. And then when Naru does figure out that Mr. Sanjuin is Nephrite, she doesn't differentiate the two identities. And then with Nephrite, I just feel like Naru is something that amuses him, because he sees how easily manipulated Naru can be, and he uses that against her. He does come to care for her in that human sense, but I also think that is because of some dormant human emotions. I also thought back to our discussion about the generals in the Moon Kingdom, and it just didn't feel like a moon moment or anything notable. It was more of a doomed interaction.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say she amuses him. I would probably use a different word. I think it starts off as being, oh, I keep running into this girl and she's making my job a lot easier because I can possess her and she can, like, go possess the princess, or I can take all of this energy from her and it'll save my butt. But I think, I think we're basically on the same wavelength, in regards to, it's not creepy, it has nothing to do with sexual inappropriateness or anything like that. I think, and I don't know, I think maybe it would have been better had this had a few more episodes, I wish we could have chunked some of Jedi's episodes and given Nephrite a few more.
Yeah, like the whole evil guy falling for the good girl, I love that trope. I am a sucker for it for fan fiction, which is why I referenced it in my intro. But on the whole, it's an interesting concept. It just wasn't it for me.
I did have a mini moment for this episode. Again, I wasn't 100% sure if it was enough to qualify as a mini moon moment. So Nephrite tells Naru he needs to talk with Sailor Moon. And Naru, for whatever reason, there's like a whole other discussion about, does Naru know that Usagi's Sailor Moon? But she calls Usagi, and Usagi, I don't know how she managed to get out of the house without her parents knowing, but she leaves the house, and she and Luna are running to Naru because they suspect she might be in danger. And that's my moon moment. The fact that she gets a call from her friend in the middle of the night, and she says, Mr. Sanjuin needs to talk to Sailor Moon. I don't know how to facilitate that. And then she says, anyway, thank you. I feel better after talking to you. And then she hangs up. Usagi still goes to her because, she may suspect that Nephrite has her in his crosshairs, but, even though Naru said, it's okay, I feel better, I'm sorry for waking you up, and then hangs up, she doesn't just take that at face value. Yeah. She leaves the house and she's running to get to Naru, which turns out to be good because then she ends up getting kidnapped and blah blah blah. So that was my mini moon moment, the fact that she sort of read between the lines and realized that this was a moment that her friend needed her, despite what her friend was saying. And I feel like this kind of thing has come up in moon moments before, and mini moon moments before, kind of reading between the lines. And even though someone says that they're okay, or they don't need your help, you just are with them anyway. I don't remember what episode it was, but talking about...
I think we talked about it with the tennis episode. When...
Yeah, that was the episode. So yeah, that was my mini moon moment. Of course, her rushing after is almost immediately undercut by the whole Nephrite, I know who you are now, Sailor Moon. And then Sailor Moon saying, okay, please don't tell anyone, please. And I love the... Because the way that shot is framed, you have Sailor Moon kind of in the background, and you just see Nephrite's, like, arm in the foreground, but you see, like, a sweat drop go down his arm as like, when she says that, he's like, is she kidding? So, like, this, it's almost immediately undercut by this moment. But what do you think?
I don't know. I think it might go back to the whole duty thing with the girls already know that Nephrite has been targeting Naru, and if one of the girls were to get a random call in the middle of the night from Naru, and it's just, oh, Mr. Sanjuin was here, I saw him, that would immediately get me out of bed and be like, okay, something is up, we gotta fight. But I don't know, the framing of this, the way that you put it, definitely makes me think of it as Usagi being a good friend. See, I guess that goes back to that conversation of duty versus friendship, I guess.
Yeah. I didn't think of it that way, but yeah.
I don't know, it's a toss-up for me, and that's such a cop-out answer, but I had not thought of it as a friend thing. I thought of it more as there's a suspicious man that we've been having our eye on. I gotta go.
The very beginning of the episode, when Naru is like, they're in the playground, her and Usagi, and I think that's like, if you think about it in terms of duty versus like friendship, them both in that playground, like the shot of them there is amazing, because Usagi is trapped between, like, if she was just Usagi, Cinnamon Roll Usagi, who is such a daydreamer and romantic, she might just tell Naru to go for it. I mean, Naru does say, I can't remember if Naru says, I know he's a bad guy, but I still like him. But, I think Usagi would just say, go for it. Like, if you like him, you should just go for it. But she's stuck also between duty, which she knows that he's not just a bad dude, but he's a bad guy. Yeah. But she can't tell Naru that.
And if you... Jumping off of that, if you take out... If Usagi were just Usagi, not Sailor Moon, and in that moment Naru calls her in the middle of the night, I don't know, I would be excited. I'd be like, oh my gosh, some boy that you have a crush on just snuck in and is like professing his love to you. Like, girl, he totally likes you, totally go for it. But because she has that knowledge of Nephrite being an evil person, she jumps out of bed right away and goes to her.
I think it would also be interesting to examine what her reaction to Naru going after Sanjuin would be, because the age gap between them is a heck of a lot more than the age gap between Rei and Mamoru. And Usagi was completely against that. Whereas, do we think Usagi would have been like all aboard the Sanjuin Naru hype train? Would the difference be that, Naru's her friend and, if she likes this guy, she should go for him? Whereas with Rei and Mamoru, Usagi doesn't like Mamoru, and now that Rei is her friend, she's sort of trying to protect Rei from Mamoru by being up in arms about their relationship. That's interesting. I didn't think about that. I'm glad that you brought up the duty versus friendship thing. Keep that in mind as we go forward to... What do we think Usagi would do if she was just Usagi in this situation? But yeah.
I honestly feel like she would just go back to bed. Like, she would say, okay, I'm glad that you called me, and I'm glad that you were able to talk about it with me. So, yeah, it was great hearing from you, and then just go to bed. I don't think she would have thought anything more of it. Again, I think she would have reacted the same way I would have and been like, oh, your crush is out there, go for it. And she's so, her head is always so like up in the clouds. She looks at life through rose-colored glasses and just sees the best in a lot of situations. And I think this is one of those situations where she would have those rose-colored glasses on and just not think anything more than on that surface level of, my friend's crush totally has a crush on her back.
I think that is going to do it for this episode. Did not expect it to go on as long as this, but what can we do when we have consent issues and potentially unsuitable relationships between adult men and young girls? We gotta spend time on it. Our next episode will cover episodes 25 through 28, and that starts the Rainbow Arc.
Yes!
I'm so excited. This is probably one of my favorite arcs of the show. So I'm hella excited. But be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Moon Moment Pod. And our website is moonmomentpodcast.com. You'll find show notes and transcripts of every episode. We are also on TikTok at Moon Moment Pod as well.
Woo! Let us know what your moon moment musings are. Are there any moments you believe need a constellation prize? We would love to hear from you, and maybe you might just get a shout out. If you'd like to support the podcast, please rate, review, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Please, it helps Moon Moments stay afloat amidst the vast ocean of podcasts. Thank you for listening. I am Gilsey.
And I am Drucilla.
We will catch you lunar. Bye!
Bye!